Good afternoon, everyone. Today we're going to be talking about Google Classroom, specifically Google Classroom for the elementary, kindergarten to second grade level. Using Google Classroom in our primary grades is very different than the way we use it in the other grades, the older grades. So we're going to talk about how that applies specifically to you all. And the first thing I'm going to have you do is I'm going to have you minimize Zoom. And I'm going to have you open up an internet browser, and I'm going to have you navigate to classroom.google.com. And I have a slide to help you with that. Right here. Screen share. All right, so here's your slide. So you're going to go to classroom.google.com. If it asks you if you're a student or a teacher, you want to make sure you select teacher. If you select student, basically it means you can't make Google Classrooms until I go in and switch the setting. Once you're on that web page, if you could click on the plus sign in the upper right corner. If you've never done Google Classroom before, there'll be like an arrow pointing to it. If you've had a classroom or joined a classroom before, it's up in the right-hand corner. It's still there. It just doesn't have the fancy arrow. From the menu, you're going to select Join Class. And your class code is J as in John, P as in Patty, Z as in Zebra, T as in Tiger, Y as in, I don't know what Y is for, 6, and K as in Kite. That's right.
Sarah, can you I have to still catch up.
Yep, no, that's okay. It's on the screen. So if you need to pop back, when you minimize Zoom, it should go to a little square in the corner. So the slide should be there. But if you need me to repeat anything, please holler. Oops, there we go.
So Sarah, if I have one that says Mrs. Cochran's class, should I click on that one?
Nope,
I must have started this with, we're going to do a new one?
Yep, so you're going to be in this one, but you're going to be the student this time. So you're going to see what the kids see.
All right, can you tell, I'm sorry, because I was in that little class.
Okay.
How do I do it?
So if are you inside your classroom now, like you see all your stuff?
I just say Mrs. Cochran's and then I see the district one.
Okay, so you're going to go to the plus sign.
I don't even, what plus? Okay.
You're on the plus sign?
Yep. Create class or join class?
Join class. Join.
Join class. Okay.
Yep. And then you're going to put in the code.
Okay.
Anybody stuck, having trouble?
Yes, Sarah, I am, when I go to it, it looks like I'm already part of it because I have two things on my screen. But
Does one of them say demo class?
No, it says Portuguese conversation and my mentoring stuff.
Okay, so you're still gonna go to the plus sign up in the corner. Up in the right-hand corner, there's a plus sign, do you see it?
I see it, but it's, okay.
And you're gonna join a class.
Okay, I got it.
And this is your code on the screen if you can see it.
Got it.
Anybody else? Anybody need more time? Okay. So
hey, Sarah, sorry, I was just muted. I'm sorry to interrupt.
That's
you.
okay.
So it won't let me open a new tab, or are we supposed to do it right in the Google Slides that you put up? It's not letting.
I mean, you can change the web address. I mean, you're not in Zoom. You have to get rid of Zoom and go to the internet.
Oh shit! You said minimize though, right?
Yep. Yep. If you minimize it, it kind of stays a little floaty square.
Right. Oh, maybe I'm doing it wrong. I don't know. All right, I'll try to figure it out.
Okay. All right, I'm gonna pull up what the teacher side of it looks like. So on your screen, what you just logged into, you're a kid in my class, basically, is what you are right now. So what you're seeing is what your students will see when they log into your classroom. It'll be very similar. On the Zoom screen, you're going to see, all my stuff's in the way, what it looks like on the teacher side. So just like yours, I have all my tiles, I have all my classes. This is your class. I have 8 students right now. I can even tell you who you are. Okay, I have Jamie, Lauren, Kate, Shabbat, Cochran, Kim, Laura, and Dorothy. So when you first log in, the first thing you see is your stream. And your stream is similar to your Twitter feed, your Instagram, your Facebook, any of your social media. It's basically the same thing. It keeps a running list of messages and activities that are happening in your classroom. It keeps them in oldest at the bottom, newest at the top. So as soon as you post something, it's going to go immediately to the top. You can rearrange these things, and we're going to talk about that. At the top, you should see the 3 flat lines. This is called a hamburger. We all call it a hamburger, even the high school kids. You should have the name of the class. Then you have stream, classwork, and people. You do not have a grades tab. Grades tab is for teachers. Then over here in the far corner, you should have settings. These are settings specifically for this class. There are other settings over here in the hamburger that apply to all of your classes, and we'll talk about that later as well. You have your app launcher, so if you need to jump out and go to Google Drive, Gmail, any of your other Google stuff, you can get to that from your app launcher. Kids also call it a waffle because that's what it looks like. And then you should have your logo, and this should be your school Gmail account, your Milford MA Gmail account. Okay? Everybody good so far? Jamie, question?
I don't have the waffle.
You don't have the waffle?
No, I don't have the setting, the one.
It could be a Zoom thing. Sometimes the settings and the waffle get kind of pushed off to the side and you have to scroll. Sometimes they get pushed down towards the bottom. It could just be a glitch too. So those aren't the main things that we're going to be worrying about. We're going to be focusing mainly on stream, classwork, and people. And then when we look at when you go in to make a class, we'll look at grades as well. Okay. So I would like for everybody to look down the stream. You should see 3 things. You should see Sarah Boyle posted a new question. Sarah Boyle posted a new assignment. And Sarah Boyle, I am so glad you are all here. Okay. The first thing I posted when I made this class was, I'm so glad that you're here. And then I posted an assignment, and then I posted a question. But I really want you guys to see, I'm so glad you're here first. So if I want to move that, I click on the dots and I can move it to the top. On your screen, you should have a little box that pops up, and it might not pop up right away, but there should be a little box that pops up to say refresh stream or reload stream. And what it does is it's sensing that there was a change and it's asking you to refresh your screen. And all you have to do is click on the link in that box. And that'll happen with your students too. If you post something while they're in Google Classroom, they'll get a little message that they need to update or they need to refresh their screen. If everybody will click on classwork up at the top, it's right next to the word stream. This is where your students are going to go when they have assignments, when they have things that they have to do. So I've posted 2 things in this section. I've posted a question, so we're going to do that first. And then I posted an assignment, and we're going to talk about the different components of the assignment. So if everybody can click on where it says question, what are you most concerned about? Click on that. And it should give you a place to answer the question, to type in your response. Go ahead and type in something quick. Are you stuck, Dorothy, or are you thinking? Hold on, you're muted, hon.
not seeing where you type. I have all kinds of boxes, but no, it says post.
So it should give you like a text box, and then you should have like a post button to submit your answer.
So that's after you hit view question?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. So I see a lot of people are commenting. We're not commenting, we're actually posting an answer. So when you log into the question, you should be able to post an answer. Let me get out of this for a second. Demo class. Oh. Okay, I have 4 people who turned it in. I have 6 people still trying to do so. So there's a difference between commenting and answering. Oops, wrong button. So when I click in, now I have 5 people who've answered it. So I have Jamie's answered it, Lauren, Chris Shabbat, Hilda, Laura, you've answered the question. Everybody else has posted a comment. You need to answer the question. Okay, now I have a few more people. And you can reply to each other within, once you've answered the question, you should be able to see each other's answers. Okay, a couple more people.
So Sarah, we don't use enter to post.
No, you have to click the button.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So we have some answers to the question here. I'm going to go back into classwork. If you guys could do the same thing. I believe the classwork tab at the top for the students goes away. So you have to click on the class name over to the left where it says demo class. And then go back to classwork. And this time I want you to click where it says try this one. This is an actual assignment. This is what it will look like when your kids have an assignment, something you've given them to do, not just a question. Okay. So when you click on it, you should see a button that says view assignment, just like mine on the teacher end. You want to click view assignment and it opens up everything that goes with this particular task. There's a video, there's a Google Slides question, and there's actually a rubric for grading. And we're going to talk about how to make all of that. Okay. When you open up your assignment, your files that you're going to work on are on the right-hand side. I want you to open up your file, the one that says video question. It should say your name dash video question. Click on that, type anything in the blue box. We're not worried about like matching things up and actually watching the video. But if you go ahead and open that up, type something in the blue box. And then you should notice that your assignment opened in a new tab. When you're done typing in the blue box, you can close that tab and then you should be back in your classroom. And you can hit the turn in button because you're finished with that assignment. Okay, I have 3 people turned in. 4. Okay, we're about halfway there, a couple more people, and then we'll jump into what all of this means and how it's going to help you guys.
How to turn in?
What's up?
How to turn in?
Are you still looking at the slides, the stars?
Yes.
All right, so you're going to X out of the stars, and you should be back into classroom where it says like your assignment, and there should be a turn in button on the right hand side underneath your assignment. Okay. All right, so I'm gonna pop back into the slides that go with the presentation. And now we're gonna talk about how this works and why we do this. How many of you were frustrated with some of this? A little bit, right? It makes sense once you figure it out, but some of it's not real intuitive. Some of it's not right there in your face. All right, so the first thing you're gonna do when you are starting Google Classroom as a teacher, you need to create your class. So just like you went up to the plus sign to join a class, when you go to the plus sign, you should have a button that says create a class. If you don't have create a class and the only choice is to join, or it just pops right into enter a code, you need to let me know, because that means somewhere down the line you were registered as a student and not as a teacher. So we need to make sure that you are able to create classes. When you create a class, you go to classroom.google, you select teacher if asked, click on the plus sign, create your class. You give your class a title. It does ask for things like room number, section number, things like that. Those are all optional. The only have to is the title of your class. For most of you, you're only going to have one class, whatever, you know, for example, Miss Shabbat's class 2020-2021, or if you have a nickname for your classroom that you use every year, or a mascot or something like that, that might be what you name your classroom. For most of you, you're only going to have one classroom. You can customize your classroom a little bit. When you are in classroom, let me pop back out here to the one we were using. Over here in the corner, you have 2 options to select a theme or upload a photo. So if you go to select theme, it gives you some generic backgrounds that Google's put together based on some popular topics. So you can pick which one you like. So if I wanted to change this, I would click on it. It changes the header. It changes the color of the buttons to kind of match and make everything coordinated. I could also upload a photo. If there was some photo or banner that I liked, if you have a Bitmoji classroom, this is where a lot of teachers are putting that. It does gray it out a little bit. So you don't want this to be a very complicated image. It does get kind of blurred, and that's all for accessibility. We want our students with vision needs to be able to read the identifiers over here in the corner. Let's see. So when you upload, it's just like when you locate any files, you find the file, you click upload, and then it pops up there, and you'll see it kind of work its Google magic and get a little grayed out. After you've created a classroom, now it's time to add your students to your classroom. And this is the part that I think is going to be the most important for you guys, is making sure that you get all of your kids into your Google Classroom. So there's 3 ways to do it. The first way is what you guys did, where you get a code, the little funky letters and numbers. You provide that code to the family, however you're communicating to the family, or in class if we're lucky enough to do this while we're still in school. They add the code to there, and then they're boom in the classroom just like you guys were. For our youngest kiddos who might have trouble typing in that class code, the other way that you can do that is by invitation. So when you're in your Google Classroom and you go to people, you can invite using this little guy over here, you can invite students to your class, and all you need to do is type their emails. And their emails for all students in Milford are first name, period, last name, year of graduation. So you should have a class list, hopefully, by at some point in the coming weeks. So you could sit down and go ahead and preload your class with all of your kiddos. The only thing that's going to happen when you do that, it doesn't automatically add them to your class. So you can see here on my screen where it says SFOIL invited. What happened with this is I invited another username that I have, and I've invited this person to my class. I haven't accepted the invitation. And what that means is when I log into Google Classroom and I have all of these tiles, it's just like here where it says join and decline. They'll get a tile of your class and they'll have to click the join button. If they don't click join, or if they click decline, their name will stay on that list as either invited or it will disappear if they click decline. So you want to make sure that you give your families, or if you're doing this in the classroom with the kids, you've been given directions for how to do this. This does go to school email addresses. If you try to add people who are not milfordma.com, it won't allow you to add them as students to the classroom. So it has to be the students' email addresses. The third way to get kids into your class, and this is brand new, it's actually not even turned on yet, it's rolling out, I believe, sometime this week or next, is Google is now offering a direct link. Instead of having to invite someone or instead of having to type in a code, it gives you a website that you can just send out. So if you're communicating with your families digitally where they can just click on links, this is the go-to way to do it. There's no code, there's no join, there's no anything. They just click on the link and boom, they're in your classroom. If you're communicating with your families by paper, this is not going to work because the login code, the link to get in is one of those great big long gobbledygook links, and link shorteners don't work. So things like bit.ly or tiny URL, those aren't going to work with this. So this is only going to work if you're communicating with families or students digitally. So the way to get that is when you're on your classes, you click on these three dots right here. And you go to, oh, it's active. You go to copy invite link. It copies it. And as you can see, it's a great big hot mess of a link. So you want to make sure that this goes to parents or families digitally. It's not something they're going to be able to type in to their classroom. All right, so I'm going to stop there before we move on to the next one. Questions so far? How to create your class, how to get your kiddos into your class. Everybody good? Great. Laura, what's up?
So would most classroom teachers have to create like a cohort A, cohort B, depending on when they're sending out assignments?
So there's been discussion of how teachers want to do this. It's up to the teacher. There's no like right or wrong way to do it. If you are expecting your two cohorts to keep on pace with each other, it's okay to create one, just have them both in there and say remote day 1, remote day 2. So whether they're a Monday, Tuesday remote or a Thursday, Friday remote, they'll do those two activities on their day 1 and day 2, and then the Wednesday activity would obviously be together. Some teachers prefer to keep the two groups separate just for in case they get off pace. One group gets a little ahead, a little behind, they need a different assignment, something like that. You can differentiate within Google Classroom. We'll get to that in a little bit. So you could potentially give different assignments to the two different cohorts if need be. I kind of like having them together, especially when they're younger, because if you pose questions or stuff like that, they can respond to each other, even though they're not in the same cohort. So it does provide that opportunity of potentially working together because they are in the same classroom as opposed to all the time in two separate groups. But again, it's up to the teacher. It's however you guys want to organize your classroom, what works for you. Chris.
I probably won't do it this way, but if we invite via email, how will the kids, since it's the kids' email, how will they know? Is it linked to like a parent email too? So the kids,
Nope.
I'm
So
thinking
when,
like new kindergarten parents coming in, how do they know, like, even there's an email?
they don't, not yet. So when you type in, when you do the invitation and you're typing in the kid's email address, when the kid has their district Chromebook, they're still, even though the kids are taking it home, we're still doing the QR code to log in with Clever.
Okay.
So when the kids log in with Clever, they'll go to Google Classroom, it'll automatically log them in, and your tile will be there and they just have to click join.
Oh, okay. But if we're not able to get to them in person, it'll be a little bit trickier that way.
Yes. I mean, you would, either way, you would probably want to put together, and we can, if you want, you and I, we can work on like a template letter that says, this is how it works.
Okay.
Anybody else? Just gonna write that down before I forget. All right, let's go back to the slides. This one. Okay, so now we're gonna talk about creating assignments, all those wonderful things that you're actually gonna put into your classroom. The most common thing to put in your classroom is an assignment. And how you do that on the teacher side, how to create it, is you go to the classwork tab, just like a student goes to the classwork tab to do an assignment, you go there to create one. In the upper corner, there is a create button, just like when you go to Google Drive and there's the create button in the upper corner and you pick docs or slides or whatever. Same idea. You get a drop-down menu and there's choices. You're making an assignment, you choose assignment. You're then going to enter the title of your assignment and the directions that you want the children to follow. You're going to select your files that go with that assignment, whether it's something from Google Drive, whether it's a YouTube video, whether it's something on your computer. We're going to talk about the different things you can add. You're going to decide how these files are shared with the students, and we'll get into that in a minute. You're going to give it a due date. I highly recommend giving everything a due date. That way students are accountable for when things are due. It gets added to a Google Calendar to help them and their parents stay organized. And you also want to give things point values. So whether it's out of 100 points, out of 5 points, out of 2 points, meaning 2 they did it, 1 they kind of did it, 0 they didn't even try it. However you want to manage the points, it's a good idea to give points. That way when it comes time to do report cards and you're giving kids a certain grade, you have the data to back it up. And you need to explain, however you're grading these assignments, you need to have that explained to the parents. So if you're doing a 2-1-0 thing, parents need to know what that means. If you're doing out of 100 points for every assignment, parents need to know what that means. If you're giving a point for every correct answer, parents need to know. And then you hit the assign button. So let's talk about what some of these settings are, and we'll look at where they are on the Google Classroom. So when you're in Google Classroom and you're creating an assignment, oops, gotta move my toolbar. Go to classwork, go over here to create, and right here at the top, the very first one is assignment. So I'm gonna click on it. Here's where I can type my title. I can type my directions. These are optional. You don't have to put anything in here. Okay. You have 2 buttons underneath, add and create. Add is for stuff that is already existing. Create is to do something fresh right now. I prefer add because it means you've already put some thought into the structure of your assignment. Create is more for older kids. If they're writing essays, a lot of teachers will just go to create, put in a blank Google Doc. That way the file has a name that they want it to have. You guys are probably going to do activities and things that are a little bit more structured, some pictures, some drag and drop, some whatever it may be, some videos for the kids to watch. So you're probably going to use the add button. When you click on add, you can put things from your Google Drive. Anything that's in your Google Drive you can use. You can put links to things all over the web. You can do links to Lexia. You can do links to Epic Books. You can do links to Kahoot quizzes, or basically if it's on the internet, you can link it here in your assignment. You can link to files that you have downloaded on your computer. So sometimes we do, for example, teacher pay teacher stuff. We've downloaded it on our computer. You can go ahead and lift it straight from your computer into your Google Classroom assignment. It's not the preferred method, and we'll get to why in just a second. You can also link directly to YouTube. And this is pretty cool because when you click YouTube, It allows you to search YouTube. You don't have to have the exact link that you're looking for, but you could search for my 2's times tables. I want a really good video for 2 times tables. And it gives me all different videos from YouTube. And I pick the one I want and I add it. If I have the specific video I want, I can also go and paste that link up here where it says URL. Just flip over and I can paste the link of the specific video that I know I want to include. When you add files from Google Drive, you have 3 different ways that you can share them. So if I want to add this slideshow that we're working in right now, I'm going to insert it, and you'll notice when I did YouTube, nothing showed up over here. But when I do stuff from my Drive, I get this drop box. I get students can view, meaning they're just looking at it. They're not doing anything. They're not typing anything. They're not completing any work. They're just looking at it. I can do students can edit. And this means that all the kids are typing on the same document. Think of a big piece of butcher paper in the middle of your table and all the kids are drawing on it at the same time. Everybody's typing on top of each other. It's not the preferred way to do it. It's a good trick to play with the kids so they can see like how that works, but it's not how you're going to do most of your assignments. The last choice is the one you're going to use the most. Make a copy for each student. This is what is digitally comparable to going to the copy machine, making 20 copies and giving one to each kid in your class. That's what this is. That's what you're probably going to use the most. If I mistakenly choose one of these first 2 and go ahead and assign over here my assignment, and I go, oh man, I forgot to make a copy. When I come back in, I can't make a copy. I have to delete that assignment and start from scratch. You have to do this when you first create the assignment. If you don't do it when you first create it, you got to scrap it and start all over again. So if you're gonna make a copy, make sure you do it like as soon as you upload the file, go right over here and do make a copy. Over here on the side, this is where you can play around with the points. Like I said, that's totally up to you. This is where you pick your due date. So this is gonna be due on Wednesday. Topics are for organizing, and we'll get into those in a little bit, but you can kind of categorize things, and we'll talk about some of the ways that you categorize them as you go through. And then you assign up here. When you're assigning, you can either just click the assign button and boom, it'll post right into Google Classroom. Or if you're a little ahead, you can schedule it. You know this assignment is for next week, you can schedule it, pick the date out on the calendar, and it will hold on to it in Google Classroom until then, and then it will show up for the kids. You can also save a draft, meaning I'm not quite sure, but I know I need something else on here. I'm not really sure what it is. I'm gonna save it as a draft and come back and work on it later. So I'm gonna go ahead and assign this one. And if you're still in as a student, you each should be getting a copy of this slideshow for your own use to kind of click around and move stuff and do whatever you wanna do. So you'll see that's right up here at the top. As soon as I assign an assignment, if I don't give it a topic, it immediately floats right up to the top. All right, let me move this. All right, so we talked about that. We talked about sharing. Students can view, that's for your resources and references. You're most likely going to use make a copy for each student. All right, when you are assigning your work, if I go back into my class, this went to all 10 of you, right? But I have an assignment that I know I only want 2 or 3 of you to work on. So I'm going to go into classwork. I'm going to create a new assignment. And this time, after I've added all of my files and I've done everything I want to do, over here where it says 4, it has a list of all of my classes. So I could potentially assign this to all of my classes. So for example, if I'm Miss Nadolski and I'm working with 2 or 3 different classes, I could assign this to all of the classes that I'm a co-teacher in. I can also, once I've picked the classes that I want, I can go over to where it says students, and I can check or uncheck the students that I do or do not want to have this file. So right now I only want Chris Shabbat and Chris Cochran to have this assignment, and I'm gonna uncheck everybody else. Nobody else needs to do this particular assignment. So right now it's just going to go to them. And when I click assign, nobody else is going to view this assignment. Nobody else is going to see it, just the kids who need to work on it. If you're doing things like reading groups or you have two different versions of the same assignment, you could name them very similar. For example, blue practice and green practice. So all the kids know that it's math practice, but this group of kids who are blue are doing this particular version of it, and this group of kids who are green are doing this version of it. And the versions are similar, but maybe one has carrying and regrouping and one doesn't, something like that. So you can differentiate the assignments that you're giving to the kiddos. You can schedule, you can save as drafts. We talked about all of that. There are other types of things that you can post. You can post a quiz. It says quiz assignment. I have heard all over the web that this is not something that you want to be doing. It kind of messes with the format of the Google Forms. If you're going to give a quiz, what's recommended is that you create that quiz in Forms first, go in and post a regular assignment using that Google form. And there's a how-to of how to create a quiz using Google Forms right here on this link. You can post a question, and that was the first activity that I had you guys do, where it said, what are you, I think it was most worried about with Google Classroom. You can post a question. It can be multiple choice or it can be short answer. You can also allow the students to respond to one another, or you can turn this off so they're only posting their answer. It's totally up to you. You can include videos in that. You can include files in that. It doesn't just have to be the question itself. You can post materials, meaning things that are not graded, things that the kids don't have to turn in, things that you want them to look at. It could be a list of websites they go to all the time. It could be anchor charts in mini digital version. It could be pictures of something that they need for a project, but these are materials. They're not assignments. You can also reuse a post. So for example, if Ms. Nadolski is a co-teacher, I know you work usually with 2 or 3 different teachers, right? If you see an assignment that, for example, Chris Zakili used with her class and you want to use it with one of the other classes that you're in and you're a co-teacher in both classes, you can log into the other teacher's classroom and reuse the post from any of your classrooms that you're a teacher in. You can reuse posts from last year's Google Classroom. You can reuse posts from things that are archived and are no longer active. So anything that you or a co-teacher you're with has posted, you can reuse in your current Google Classrooms. You just have to select reuse post from the menu. I'm going to pause there. Questions?
When
Sarah? Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Laura.
you talked about saving a draft.
Uh-huh.
I assume that goes to your drive somewhere, but where?
So it actually lives in Google Classroom. It doesn't go into your drive. So if I show you mine, if I go back up here to classwork, get out of here. It's gonna work. So right here, see this ASDF? This was a draft. So it lives here until I click into it and edit it. And now I can finish working on it and adding to it and then assign it. Or I can save it again and say, oh, I still am not quite finished. It's not quite what I want it to be. I can save it again and again and again until it's what I want. But it stays in Google Classroom and it keeps anything that you've attached to it here. So anything you've already done stays there until you assign it. Kate, what's up?
If I want them to have a folder of resources, is there a place for that in Google Classroom, or is that something I want to preload into their drive or share a folder with their drive?
You probably would want to post it as a material. I believe you can post a folder, but I'll look into that specifically. The only problem with preloading it into their drive is that it goes to shared with me, and most people don't check their shared with me. So if you did that, you would have to teach either the child or the parents to go to shared with me and then add it to their drive, or send us a link that forces a copy.
Or I could pre-do it all and put it into their drives for them, because
yeah, you'd have to sit and like log in as all 20 kids. But I think I'm going to look into it and get back to you, but I'm pretty sure you can post like a whole folder and say, here's your stuff.
And what do I do so they can't edit it? It's just view only.
Just
Never mind.
view only. Yep. So it'll be students can view file.
Thank you.
Anybody else? All right, let's jump back in. I think I answered all the chat questions. Let's just double check. All right. All right, here we go. Here. So now we're on to what do you do now that the students have finished their assignments? They've turned it in, they're waiting for you to look at it, correct it, give feedback, and give it back to them. So there's a couple different things you can do. You can, so to get to it, first we got to find out where it is. So when you want to get to it, you go to your classwork. Get out of this one. You go up here to your classwork tab, just like if you were creating something. You find the assignment that you're looking to correct. So I'm going to correct the one where you guys answered the STAR question. You click on the assignment, and then you click View Assignment, just like the kids do. You're clicking View Assignment. And what's really cool is that it gives me this little counter. It tells me that 8 people turned it in and 2 people are still working. So I can either click on these numbers and see the 2 people who are still working or the 8 people that turned it in. Or if I click View Assignment, I can see everybody. So now I'm looking at all 10 files over here. And if I just want to see the 2 people who are still working, I can see just those people. If I only want to see the people who are finished, I can see that. And I have all of you listed over here on the side. And it even tells me these people turned it in. These people are still working. And I can put their grades after I've looked at them right here on this score sheet right here. So I'm going to pop into Kate's. I found her file. I clicked on it. I'm looking at her slide. Oh, this is a great answer. I can come over here. I can put her grade right here. I can give her her scores based on the rubric that I attached to this assignment, and we'll jump into that in a minute. Okay. I can also provide private comments, and private comments are great because when Kate goes back into her assignment, over where the assignment was and the turn-in button is, there's a space right underneath for private comments. And these comments that I type only go to her. Nobody else in the class can see them except for her and I and any other co-teachers that might be in that class. So I might say, you're doing a really awesome job. Pay attention to your spelling. Or you only answered half of the questions. Can you go back and look at it again? And these conversations are between her and I can also add comments directly on the slide itself, wherever I want to put them. Here it is. So I can add a comment right here. So I want to pull her attention onto this particular part of the assignment, and I can say, make sure you are trying your best. Okay, so I can put comments directly inside the slide too. It doesn't have to be in the Google Classroom interface. And then when I'm all set, I'm going to return this to her so that she can see her score. So when I return it on her side, she's going to have ownership of the file again. I still know what score she got. I can still click into the file and see it, but it goes back to her. And if the procedure in my classroom is for students to redo the work that I've handed back to see if they can correct their mistakes, she can resubmit it on her end. Just like the turn-in button, it now should say resubmit. There are lots of ways that you can give feedback to your kiddos. You can do the comments like we talked about. You can do the private comments on the side. There's also extensions and add-ons that allow you to give audio and video comments and feedback to your kids. You can type directly on the file itself. So I could click inside this box and add to it. I can add little comments. I might have a protocol that we've set up in the class where anything that I'm adding to the slide, I type in purple or whatever it may be. And we talk about that as a class, what that's going to look like. You can put certain slides, you can insert new slides or text boxes into documents. And, you know, again, maybe a specific color pertains to teacher comments. And there's a video how-to of how to do that. Some teachers have started creating stickers or reusable images, and they store them in Google Keep, and they apply them to students' work, just like, you know, a regular sticker in the classroom. Again, there's a how-to video right here. You can also use the Google Classroom app, particularly on an iPad. It is very friendly, and it allows you to handwrite messages or feedback with a stylus onto a child's assignment, and then it will go back to the kid as well. Again, there's a how-to video here. It's a little bit more advanced, these how-tos, but if that's something you're looking to learn, the directions are in those videos. Couple of reminders, make sure you return the work to the student. If you don't return it, they're not gonna know how they did, and they're gonna sit there and go, Miss Briere, how'd I do? Miss Briere, did you get my work? Miss Briere, Miss Briere. Just return it, it's a lot easier. They can resubmit. We talked about that. Where the turn in button is, they have now a resubmit button. So if you want students to do that, make sure you talk about it. The grading system within Google Classroom does not sync up to X2 yet. So if you're going to be using the grading system in Google Classroom, make sure that you are prepared to transcribe them into X2 or some other gradebook that you choose to use. We're hoping that the Google Classroom integration is coming soon. They keep talking about it, but it hasn't quite made it there yet. So hopefully that'll be there shortly. Questions about feedback and grading? If it's a worksheet type activity, it depends on the worksheet that you're giving them. So you could do the kind where you put the picture in the background and you put the text boxes where you want them to type, then they would type right on it. Some teachers are creating drag and drop type stuff, like foundation letter tiles and things like that. You can put those in there. It really just depends on what your expectation for the kids to do is. Anybody else?
So that first activity you had us do,
The question.
the question,
Mm-hmm.
how do we make that more user-friendly? Because we all screwed up and we
You don't. That's
did
why I put it in
comment
there.
instead of submit or whatever.
Yeah, no, the question is not super friendly for littles, and that's why I put it in there, is because I wanted you to see that that might not be how you do that. Google Classroom does integrate pretty well with Seesaw, or actually I should say it the other way around. Seesaw integrates into Google Classroom pretty well. So if you're familiar with Seesaw, you can create your activity or whatever you have going on Seesaw and link it into Google Classroom and have the kids actually go to Google Classroom to get to Seesaw. But again, we're working on free Seesaw, so you have the 100 activity limit kind of thing. So just work within your parameters, but it does work. All right, so now we're going to talk about how to make this easier for you and for them. So there are some tricks that you can do to make it a little more user-friendly. Obviously, not everything's going to be user-friendly. It was designed primarily for older students, so some of it's going to be a little bit higher than your kids, particularly our kindergartners. One of the biggest things I've seen people do all over the internet, Instagram, Facebook, all that good stuff, is make a class website. If you make a class website, particularly using Google Sites, and there's a how-to on here to do that, it will serve multiple purposes. You can do parent communication, you can post resources, and you can link up directly to the assignment. So once you have your kids in Google Classroom, they don't have to log into Google Classroom to get to their assignments. Each assignment has a direct link to it. So if you take that link and put it on your Google website, like where it says Monday Math, and they click on the button and it takes them right into Google Classroom. They don't have to kind of go, oh wait, I have to go to classwork. I have to scroll down. I have to find it. I have to do this. It takes them right into it. So then all they have to do is open up the files, do the work, click the turn in button. And those links are pretty easy to find. Pop out of this one so I can show you. For this particular one, try this one, the one that you guys did all together for me, when you go to the 3 dots, you do copy link. And I've copied the link onto my clipboard. I go to my Google site, I paste it in, and now whenever they click on either that text or that image, they go straight into Google Classroom, and this is what they see now. They see what you saw when you clicked into that assignment. Takes them straight to it. You can also add direct links to other sites, like I was talking about with Seesaw. Again, there's a how-to here to show you how to do it, and there's a link directly into Seesaw if that's something you're interested in. A lot of teachers have started coding their assignments, and what that means is they're using emojis or colors or symbols to show the kids, this is a math assignment, this is a reading assignment, this is a science assignment. Or they're using specific colors for, if it's red, it's a Monday activity. If it's blue, it's a Tuesday activity. Whatever system works for you, you can use those color coding strategies. And there's 2 links here on how to get those little emojis. And basically you go to the website, you find the emoji or symbol you want, you copy, and you paste it into the title of your assignment. It makes it easier for you to stay organized and for them, and they know which activities they're supposed to do when. Using topics. So there's a big discussion about how to use the topics. Some teachers like to use the topics as date, whether it's the specific day or the week span. So week 1, and then you put the dates next to it, or week 2, and then you put the dates next to it. Some teachers prefer to put topics by subjects. Each assignment can only have one topic. It can't be both. So you have to pick how you're going to use your topics, and then I would say stick with it all the way through the rest of the year. Once an assignment is completed, it is strongly recommended that you create a completed or an archived topic so that after an assignment is done, like 2 or 3 weeks past that assignment, you can take those assignments and move them into the completed topic. And this is because you can only have 100 topics at a time. Once you reach topic 101, it won't let you create anymore. So it's good to have that completed or archived topic so that you can move assignments and keep creating as you need to. The to-do list is automatically generated by Google Classroom, and what it does is it keeps a running list of all the assignments the students have. You can see all of them at once. You can see just the ones that are finished. You can see just the ones that are still needing to be done, the ones that are missing and late, the ones that have been returned and graded to the kids. And as a teacher, you can actually see the same thing if you go to people and you click on somebody's name. So I'm going to click on Jamie's name. I can see which assignments she's turned in, which assignments I've returned, and which ones are still missing. So I can see the same thing. This is basically what hers would look like. It would just say to do at the top instead of her name. So I can click into individual students and see everybody's list. You would be able to see your list. You would also be able to go over here to your hamburger, and you have a to-do list as a student, and it would be a to-do list of all of your classes. So for example, if the kids had a separate class for PE and art and music, if they went to the hamburger and clicked their to-do in their hamburger, it would be their assignments for all of their classrooms, not just the one they're in right now. The assignments with due dates also sync up automatically to Google Calendar. So this is a great way for the parents to stay organized. I'm not expecting kindergartners to be clicking on the calendar to check their due dates, but this helps the parents stay organized and know when things are due and when they need to be turned in. These are just some kind of quick things that if you're looking to kind of make better use of your Google Classroom, you can do all of this. Every time a student posts, every time a student turns in, every time a student comments, anytime a student does anything, you're going to get an email. And you can adjust what you get notified from or about. If you go to your hamburger and you scroll all the way down to settings, you can go into notifications and turn off or on what you get emails about. So you can, it'll have a list of your various classes and you can turn off and on the emails for the different things. So you need to take the time to read through these different types of notifications and decide which ones you want. You can clean up the stream as well. You should have noticed when you logged into your classroom, you had the assignments and the announcements kind of all mixed together. You can take the assignments out of your stream so that all the students are seeing at that point are the important notifications, the things that you want to make an announcement. So if I go to this gear in the setting in the class that I want, I can scroll down, and where it says classwork on the stream, I can hide those notifications. This does have a save button. So now when I go back to my stream, the only thing you're going to see are my announcements. You're not going to see any assignments or quizzes or questions. You're only going to see announcements that I've made. You can move posts. So if something's at the bottom and you want to pull it to the top, you can do that using the 3 dots. You can drag and drop, or there's a quick move to the top option. You can do that too. I also strongly recommend that if you're not super comfortable with Google Classroom yet, definitely create a demo class so that you can go in and kind of play with the features without sending things out to the kids by accident. If you have a teaching colleague that is comfortable with this, join their class as a student. That way you can check their posts to make sure that it's posting correctly, and have them join your class as a student so they can check up on yours as well. You can kind of double check each other. Rubrics can be created. I can post a video about how to do that. They can make your grading and what you're looking for really transparent for your kids and your parents. I showed you the people tab and how to do the assignment check. There's a really great extension called Talk and Comment. And what it does is you record your voice as a comment, and it shows up over here in the sidebar, just like a regular comment, but instead of text, it's a play button, and the kids push the play button and they hear your voice giving them the feedback that you're trying to give them. So that's a really great tool to use. And sometimes you can see it on my screen. There's like a little microphone hovering on the right-hand side, and that's what that is. You can also do video directions. So I know a lot of our kindergartners, first graders, they're still learning to read. And if you put typed directions in the instructions, they're not gonna know what they say. So there's a webcam record extension. It's intended for 30-second videos, and it's short and sweet. And you record your videos, you tell the kids what you want them to do, and you put this as an attachment and say directions, like that's the title of your file, directions. So the kids listen to the directions and then they know what to do with your file. You also want to teach them how to take pictures and upload their work, or use Seesaw. I'm a big proponent of Seesaw. I love Seesaw. It's pretty easy for the kiddos to use. You also want to talk to them about the difference between mark as done and turning it in. Turning it in shows up when they have attachments. So when you have those Google Slides and things like that, it'll say turn in. If there's no attachments, it'll say mark as done. It's the same thing. They're saying, yes, I did this. There's just nothing to turn in. So even though it doesn't say turn in, that's what they're still doing. They're saying, I'm finished with this. And then I have 2 additional slides here with a bunch of links and websites to various different resources that'll be helpful to you. These last ones down here where it says Summer PD, those are the Google sessions that we already did in the training series this summer. So if you're interested in clicking on those, feel free to. The rest are just various things that I found and have been using over the years all over the internet. So that's my slides. Questions? I know it was a lot and it was fast.
Sarah, I don't know if you want me to wait till Wednesday, but I'm having trouble with the talk and comment.
Okay.
It's just giving me a link, and then the link goes to like a main web page for talk and comment.
That's weird. All right, we'll play with it.
And I don't understand how they draw on a slide.
Who, the kids? So the best way
said
to
you
get them to draw on a slide would be with Pear Deck. If you use the Pear Deck add-on, that's going to be the best way to get them to draw. And it's going to be clunky drawing. Think like elementary school Microsoft Paint kind of draw. It's not going to be hanging in the loop kind of stuff.
What's the click to add speaker notes at the bottom of slides?
Those are presenter notes. So when you actually use slides to present stuff and you like push the present button, you can use your speaker notes. Some teachers use those as directions. So like my kid was in 4th grade last year, he's a 5th grader this year. She would put individual directions for each slide in the speaker notes. So like she would have like a 10 slide activity for them to do when they were doing something different on each slide. She would put the individual directions down there.
Just type notes.
Yeah. You can put links and stuff in there too, but.
What about Zoom Annotate?
It's good.
Can kids use it to?
It's a little clunky because it asks for like permission and all that kind of stuff. Like you have to kind of hand it off back and forth. So honestly, for kindergartners, if they don't have an adult right there to help them, they're not going to figure it out. Because that box is going to pop up and they're going to be like, Miss Briere, I don't know what it says.
Thank you.
Yep. Anybody else? All right, I'm going to stop the recording.